Welcome back to Rewind of the Living Dead. And for those listening on the podcast, this will sound probably no different than any other podcast, but we are currently live as we launch our Patreon tonight. And tonight, Patrick, we are talking about one of the five, in my opinion, one of the five greatest movies ever made, the first ever true summer blockbuster. We are talking about Jaws.
Oh, Damon, we are talking Jaws. Yes, starring the likes of Lorraine Gray, Richard Dreyfuss as Hooper, Robert Shaw as Quint, and Roy Scheider as Brody. As you mentioned, Damon, written by Carl Gottlieb, with obviously based on Peter Benchley's book, and directed by the great Steven Spielberg. Damon, tonight we're going to need a bigger boat because we are talking the absolute summer classic. And yes, Damon, and I want to get into this, the very first blockbuster, summer blockbuster, Jaws.
You mentioned right there the line, and I mentioned in the intro as well. You're going to need a bigger boat. Is that the most misquoted movie quote of all time?
Because everyone thinks it's we're going to need a bigger boat. It's you're
Yeah.
going to need a bigger boat.
Yeah, you're going to need a
Absolutely.
bigger boat. Yeah, it's so funny because that's got to be one of the ones that gets misquoted the most. To tell you my true passion of how much I love this movie, I have a giant Quint painting poster in my living room, and my dog, which is also an homage to Kevin Smith, because Kevin Smith is a massive Jaws fan. And if you watch any of his movies, he's named a lot of his characters after characters from Jaws. My second puppy, one of the loves of my lives of my dogs, his name is Brody Bruce Martin. Brody is also from Mallrats, but Brody, of course, from this movie. And then Bruce was the name of the mechanical shark. So my dog, the joy of my life, my little Boston Terrier, his name is Brody Bruce Martin. That's how much I love Jaws. I named my dog after the characters in Jaws.
That's very cute, Damon, and how apropos that we talk about Jaws on what tonight is a very one of the touchstones of I think our podcast, because we are doing this live. We have a live audience on YouTube that is listening to us, but not only that, we are launching our Patreon. So if you're listening to this and you didn't get to listen live when we recorded this, patreon.com/rewind of the living dead. We want to get everyone signed up. We want to have a lot of fun with you. So please, by all means, join us on our Patreon. But yes, when we first started this podcast, we opened up with The Shining. Shining is an absolute horror classic, one of the better films ever made because it's from one of the greatest filmmakers ever, Stanley Kubrick. Steven Spielberg invented the blockbuster with this film. This isn't just a great horror movie. This isn't just a good shark movie, probably the best shark movie. Let's be honest. I don't think there's a better one. I'd love to hear someone give an example of a better shark movie than Jaws. This is the shark movie, the definitive shark movie. And it is, I remember a few years ago, my brother and I went to go see it in the theater because even though I've seen it countless times, I said, I have to know what it was like back in, 1973, 72?
75 when it came out.
1975. What on earth was going on in people's minds when they sat in a dark theater and this movie came on? And people in our chat are going, oh my gosh, this was a PG movie.
Yeah.
Damon, I got a little anecdote for you that doesn't involve me particularly, but it involves the most important person in my life. That's my wife. She was, I believe, 4 or 5 years old in her pre-K classroom. Now, there's a rule in California that you are not allowed to show a movie rated above PG. It's got to be PG or G or for kids, period. So some TK organizer, teacher person was like, well, this movie's PG. She puts it on for a bunch of TKers and plays it all the way through. I'm assuming she just played it and walked away, right? Because it wasn't a classroom. It was like, it's where you keep kids who, they're in between school. And those little children sat down and watched Jaws. My wife said she could not go in a bathtub after that. Can you imagine being 5 years old and being like, hey, watch this? Your little 4 or 5 year old brain that doesn't know much of anything. Watch this movie. This is a fucking horrific movie, Damon. I mean, like this, if you aren't scared of the water, you will be after this movie. It's a perfect examination of being afraid of big giant teeth in the water. Imagine being 4.5 years old and watching this for the first time.
what I think is so great about Jaws and what's so effective about Jaws. First off, I'm with your wife. I to this day do not like going in the ocean. I was in San Diego a few years ago. My girlfriend was like obsessed with wanting to go to the beach, and we went to the beach. We got food, and she's like, "You gotta come in the ocean. Like you never swam. I've been in the ocean, but I never swam in the ocean. I've been on boats in the ocean, and she's like, "You got to get in the ocean." It's like, "All right, I'll go, but you're not going to get me into any water higher than waist deep because fuck that noise." And that is 100% a result of watching Jaws when they tell you that sharks typically attack in 3 feet of water. That line has stuck with me from the first time I saw this movie when I was like 9 or 10 to this day. Now, I understand like there's so much more to sharks than what they show you in Jaws, but that line, that movie messed me up so badly that I'm just like, no, I'm good. I can go waist high. That's about it. You're not getting me any deeper than that. To this day, I still hold on to that truth, and I will not break it for anybody. But here's what I think is so special about Jaws that I think separates this movie from a lot of other horror movies in the 70s. And we've talked about this on the show before. We reviewed the original Halloween, John Carpenter's classic, not the 2018 movie with the same exact fucking name. The original Jaws is a classic, and it really did set forth a different style of filmmaking for slashers, the point of view, the way that John Carpenter scored that movie. It is a masterpiece. But if we had one, I wouldn't say complaint, just one, I guess, minor criticism watching it years later, is we're like, it just isn't that scary by today's standards. Like in 1978, it was considered the scariest movie of all time.
Right.
For us in 2022 2023 whenever we reviewed that movie, we're like, yeah, I mean it's a great movie, but it's not really actually scary. And I just remember watching it with my girlfriend, and she had never seen it, and I think it was re-showing in a theater, and I took her to go see it in the theater, and she was like, it was all right, but it just wasn't scary. And I was like, oh my god, that's so good. And the other one was The Exorcist, and I know a lot of now there are still some people that are freaked out by The Exorcist, but even that one, like my girlfriend, same kind of thing. She's like, it's good, but it's not scary. Like it looked, the effects look older. Reagan's head turning around. I mean, it looks cool, but it's still, by today's standards. And she's like, it's a good movie, but it didn't scare me. And I was like, man, I want her to have that same enjoyment I did because I saw The Exorcist when I was a kid and it probably affected me more. Jaws is different. Jaws still freaks me out. To this day, I will not go deep into the ocean because of this movie. So I think that's what makes this movie so effective. Not only is it genius and it's great and it's an amazing film, it holds up. Like you could show this to somebody today and they're going to be like, fuck the ocean. Like I'm not going anywhere after that. And that all comes down to the necessity of how this film had to be shot because they couldn't get the mechanical shark to work. And so two factors had to come and play when Steven Spielberg was shooting this movie. One was he had to come up with mechanisms that would allow you to be afraid of the shark when you didn't see the sharks. So you see the underwater shots, you see the fin, you see people getting pulled under and the blood bubbling up from the underground, from underwater. Those were all done out of necessity because the mechanical shark would not work. And so like, well, we got to come up with another way to scare people without actually showing you the shark. The other mechanism was a big thank you to John Williams, the score. Steven Spielberg went to John Williams and said, I need a score that's going to scare people. And when you hear that, dun 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 dun, that tells you dangers around the corner or under your waist or whatever you want to say. And that's all done out of necessity because the fucking mechanical shark wouldn't work. And so like we got to figure out another way to scare people. But it works so well that it remains one of the most terrifying movies of all time because of those mechanisms.
It's interesting you bring up Exorcist, and we talked about it on the show, and that's an absolutely brilliant film. But on rewatch, I was like, it's not scary. There's a couple of uncanny valley moments that I thought were interesting. I just thought it was a very compelling story, a very intense and compelling story, and I think it's genius. And I can see why people aren't scared by it. The thing that they tapped into with Jaws was primal. It was like, this is dark water. This is something you can't fully see. This is something where you're completely out of your element. Humans are not meant to just live in the water. They can go in it, but boy, that's not their element. You're in the element with an animal that it's the master of that domain. And you have to somehow survive if it decides to go full great white on you, right? That tiger went tiger. This great white is going great white on you. And there's not really much you can do. As a filmmaker, this movie terrifies me. when I sit and watch it and I realize young Steven Spielberg, who I think was like 27 at the time, something like that, which is unreal. 26 years old.
You want to feel unaccomplished. Think about this. Steven Spielberg's directing this at 26. What was I doing at 26?
Like his second movie too, by the way. Like I think he had already done the other one. I forget its name.
The Sugarland Express was the first movie, and then this one.
And you're just like, you're gonna shoot this on the ocean? Yes, like on the ocean, not in a tank. Not in a tank. We're going on the ocean. I just shot something like basically in the backyard of my house, and it took 3 months to make. He's going into the ocean with a mechanical shark. They put said mechanical shark named Bruce in the water, and they go, funny thing about putting mechanics into salt water in 1973 or whatever year they started shooting the movie. Funny thing, these mechanics don't work great in salt water. Oh, really? Yeah. You know how the part where you want the thing to chomp, it's not working, Steve. What do we do? We're going to improvise. Like we're going to find ways to make the shark scary. And interestingly enough, that very first scene, the skinny dipping scene, which opens the movie, that right there is as terrifying as anything in the movie, honestly, because you see nothing. And we've said it time and time again, there's nothing new about this statement. What you leave up to the audience's imagination can often be so much more terrifying than showing the thing. Jaws is the perfect lesson in that. This woman gets into the water, she dives in, she's swimming around, and there's just this building of tension. She's in dark water. That's scary enough as it is. She's naked. There's a vulnerability to that. I think, I don't know if they were just like, hey, let's get a naked chick on screen, or they were just like, no, there's a vulnerability to your parts being out and exposed. There's that. And then there's the music. And then there's the camera shots that keep building what's happening. And then, Damon, she starts to get yanked across the water. First of all, nothing about that's realistic. If you've ever seen a shark attack, shark attacks don't happen like that. It's usually bite and move on. Bite, thrash, move on is usually how it works. I've seen a few. It's terrifying nonetheless, but nothing gets dragged in the water like that. And so that actually triggers the uncanny valley in your brain where you go, I'm sorry, that's not supposed to happen. Like even if that I'm supposed to believe that's a shark down there, that's not supposed to happen. That feels wrong. And the way she's being dragged, it seems so strange. And I believe it was a stunt woman, if I'm not mistaken, who was or she lied about being a stunt woman or something like that. And she's like, I can do it. They got her on this cable rig and they're yanking her back and forth across this little lagoon. And then she holds on to the buoy. And then finally she gets ripped away. Like that was her last grasp of trying to survive, like her last human instinct to grab onto something, and then she gets dragged away. But you never see what did it. That's so fucking scary. And I was just sitting there watching it, and it's not like, it's not like scaring me. I'm not like looking over my back. It's just like primally, my brain goes, that wrong. You run now. You run, caveman, run. Like that's what it does. And sometimes that's kind of all you need.
It's funny because I was watching, I can't remember what movie it was I was watching recently. And it was a movie I want to say took place in New York. And I was reading, maybe it was Reddit or maybe it was just a comment thread somewhere. I can't remember where I read it. But they were like, great movie, but you can tell that's not New York. You can tell it's filmed in Toronto or Cleveland or wherever they normally make things look like New York. And if you're a hardcore New Yorker, you recognize right away like, that's not really New York. Like they're having another film. They're having another city stand in for New York. But the rest of the world, who maybe doesn't know New York that intimately or hasn't been there like 20 times like I have, or probably more so for you, they're like, oh, this is New York. It's skyscrapers and busy streets and, just the hallmarks of what you think of New York. So while hardcore New Yorkers are like, that's not New York, the rest of the world is like, that's New York. Most people don't know how sharks behave in the water. You just described like that's not how they work. But I guarantee you the vast majority of the audience to this day probably don't know that, because how many people are studying sharks? Yeah. There have definitely been people more enthusiastic now. They have Shark Week on Discovery, and there's a lot of shark movies out there. But generally speaking, just your knowledge, when you're in school, you don't learn about sharks. You don't learn about shark attacks. So you can play with people's emotions based on the lack of knowledge. Like when you watch that scene in the opening, as you said, you don't know what's happening. You don't know what's actually attacking her in that moment. but you see her get whipped around the water, her screaming, her getting pulled under and back up and pulled under and back up and then under and gone. And you don't know until, a few minutes later when they find her on the beach, and then they have that great scene where Chief Brody's typing at the typewriter and you see shark attack. You don't really know. But as you said, like, based on the knowledge you have about sharks, that's not how it works. But the vast majority of people don't. I didn't know that. And one of the great things about this movie is Chief Brody is educating himself about sharks as the movie goes on. So he's like, did you know that sharks usually attack people in 3 feet of water? And did you know that's the movie educating you, because the vast majority of people don't know about that. Like I know now, and
Damon sure shit knows, and he won't go any farther than 2.5 feet into water now.
Yeah, but there's a lot of subjects like that. That's how movies are good at that, because they're not telling you gravity isn't real, but they're telling you something you may not know about, which are sharks. And then they kind of pepper out information throughout the movie. But that opening scene is so iconic, and that is going back to what I was talking about before with the mechanism of like giving you a way to be scared, giving you a way to be terrified of a shark. And in that moment, you don't even know if it's a shark. You don't know that it's a shark, but it works so well. And then you think about the opening scene with Chief Brody getting the phone call and him getting up, and you see his family and his kids, and a bit of a stranger in a strange land. You can tell he's like, kind of when they're talking about being in the yard, he's like, don't you mean yard? I'm going to take the car out to the parking, right? And he does the Boston accent. And he goes there, and they go to the beach, and he has a conversation with the kid who passed out, and he's like, oh, so she ran out on you? He's like, no, sir. And then he hears the whistle from his deputy, and the deputy's shaking and convulsing almost, and you go over and you see the hand, crabs crawling over the dead hand in the sand, and that's when you realize something horrific has happened. It is one of the best openings best like 10 minutes of an opening scene of a movie ever made.
It's a really compelling film. I mean, we might as well talk a little bit about the story while we're at it. And this is truly like a fish out of water story, like pun intended. Chief Brody is an out-of-towner. He's a city guy, right? I believe he was New York City, if I'm not mistaken.
New York City, yeah, New York City.
So he's a New York City cop who has now been tasked with being the police chief of Amity Island. And, he's an outsider, and they feel it. And it's a small town, and they work in small town ways. And when this happens, his instinct is like, well, basically there's a killer on the loose. And for lack of a better metaphor, we're going to throw the state fair this weekend, and the killer loves to kill on the Ferris wheel. So what makes the most sense for me as a cop is we're going to shut down the fair. We're not going to do it. So he goes to the mayor and says, hey, mayor, clearly the coroner has said this is a shark attack, so we're shutting down the waters. And the mayor goes, now hold on just a second. It's 4th of July weekend. And this is all this little town's got, this little hamlet. All we got is the summer tourists. You shut that water down, and we'll be poor all winter long. This is where we make our money. Like, even though it's kind of like, obviously we all hate the mayor of this town, but like, you see his point of view. He's like, can we avoid the panic somehow? He's a sleazeball.
You yell Barracuda, everyone goes, huh? What? You yell shark, and you got to panic on the 4th of July.
Yeah. And so he gets immediate pushback from the mayor, and then the mayor immediately gets kind of like the town hall on his side and all that stuff. So that way how timely is this? It's just like where they go, hey, what if instead of getting people scared about this, we lie about it so we can get what we want? It's universal. The idea is universal. And the conundrum that Chief Brody is in is totally universal. He's like, I got to do the right thing. And I got a bunch of people here that want to do the wrong thing for the wrong reasons. And, Chief Brody's kind of like being pulled between these worlds. And he's like, this is a small town. I got to try and figure out a way to do it. So they go on the shark hunt, right? It becomes a shark hunt.
First, you're skipping a step here. First is, he says it's a boating accident, is what the coroner tells me. He's like, oh, it's a boating accident. He's like, oh,
that's
okay.
after the mayor's massaged him, though.
Well, yeah, he does. But he says, well, it's a boating accident. He's like, okay. He's like, you're willing to change your report? He's like, I am. He's like, okay. And so they tuck it away. They open the beaches, and then they all go to the beach. Everything's good. Everyone's out in the water. And then poor little Alex Kintner, with his pruned hands, goes out with his raft one more time. And his mom's like, just 15 more minutes. And he's like, okay, Mom. And he goes out there, and you see the shark come up from underneath the raft, and it grabs him, and you see the blood splatter off, and you see just a bit of the shark, and you see Alex Kittner go under. Everyone runs, and you see Chief Brody freaking out, and he's like, everyone out of the water, everyone out of the water. Everyone gets out, and you just see that bloody raft just wash up on the shore, and you see poor Alex Kittner's mother going, Alex? Alex? And that's where you realize that Alex Kittner has been killed by this shark, and that's where you switch into the town hall meeting where, where Chief Brody's like, we are going to shut down the beaches, and even then the mayor's like, only 24 hours? Even then, after a death, clearly a death by a shark, he's just like, only 24 hours? And the kid, they're like, 24 hours is like 3 weeks out here. And that's where we meet for the first time Quint, the shark hunter.
Oh, Damon, talk about a way to intro a character. There's this frenzy, there's all these kind of goofy, like it's a great goofy kind of small town vibe, like a great casting too. Everybody in there really feels like they're from a small town, and they're all bickering and arguing. We can't shut the beach down even for 24 hours. And then the fingers, literally the fingers on the chalkboard, and then the camera kind of just dollies in to this grizzled old fisherman, Quint, and he says, go ahead.
Hold on. He says, what does he say, Patrick? He says,
you all know me, know how I earn a living. I'll catch this bird for you, but it ain't gonna be easy. Bad fish. Not like going down the pond chasing bluegills or tommycods. This shark, swallow you whole. Shaking, tenderizing, down you go. And we gotta do it quick. I don't bring back the tourists. That'll put all your businesses on a paying basis. But it's not going to be pleasant. I value my neck a lot more than $3,000, Chief. I'll find him for 3, but I'll catch him and kill him for 10. And you got to make up your minds. You want to stay alive and ante up? You want to play it cheap? Be on welfare the whole winter. I don't want no volunteers. I don't want no mates. There's too many captains on this island. $10,000 for me by myself. For that, you get the head, the tail, the whole damn thing.
The head, the tail, the whole damn thing. One of the greatest character entrances ever.
It's incredible. And he has such a command in that moment, right? Like everybody is, they sound like, honking horns. And here comes this kind of gruff and grim and just sort of at ease guy. And he's like, I'm going to lay it all out for you. I know the ins and the outs of all. I know what you need. I know how to get it for you. You going to make the choice? Like, let's do it. Right now, this is an important part of any hero's journey, which is the denial of the call. He's asking for $10,000 in 1974. That's too much money. That's too much money. This is a small town. We still can't do it. We still don't have people coming in and buying ice cream yet. I can't give you 10 grand, even though he's saying don't cheap out because you got a killer shark on your hands. I know what you're up against. So they deny the call. And that is the key to any great movie, is denying the call. So they go, nah, it's a little expensive. We'll just have a little journey tomorrow. We'll get all that. We have our little $3,000 for the shark. We'll send all these fishermen out there. The next day, it's like the dopiest guy after the dopiest guy going out there. Some guy's got running around with dynamite in his hands and shit like that, shotguns. They don't know what the fuck they're doing. And they're going to go out there and they're going to try and find this shark. Damon, they find a tiger shark, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, correct. What? A what? Tiger shark.
I absolutely loved the scene where they have the tiger shark up on the hook. And this is when we introduce Hooper, Richard Dreyfuss's character. And he's a scientist and he knows his shit. He understands sharks. These people are, they're simpler folk. Okay. They don't have a scientific background, education, and money like Hooper does. He walks in there and he's doing his little measuring tape and he's looking at the bite and all that stuff. He's going, it's not your shark. And the guys, and just some goobers going, it's a big enough mouth, isn't it? That's fine. We did it. And I'm looking and I'm going, boy, shit ain't changed much. That's how people would be today. Be like, hey, we got the thing. It's not the thing. Like the bite's twice that big. And you're telling me that's the thing? That's not the thing. It's thing enough.
Yeah. And when you meet Richard Dreyfuss, when you meet Hooper for the first time, he says, I think I should see the remains of the first girl. And he takes him to see Christy Watkins and he pulls out the remains of her in like tubs because that's all that's left. And he's like gasping when he sees it, and he pulls out. And he's like, well, this is not a boating accident, and it wasn't coral reef, and it wasn't Jack the Ripper. It's a shark, a big one. He knows, and he knows the coroner lied his ass off because he was trying to keep the business for the town. And that's where they go to the pier, and they see the tiger shark all strung up. They're taking photos for the paper, and everyone's celebrating. Mayor Vaughn is, he is euphoric with excitement because they can have their July 4th celebration. And as you mentioned, Hooper's like, not the correct bite radius. He's like, I'm not saying it's not the shark. I'm saying it may not be the shark. The easiest way we can confirm is to open it up. This animal's digestion is very slow, and we can see what's inside. And Mayor Vaughn, which by the way, this might be the one time I agree with Mayor Vaughn. He's like, I'm not going to open up a shark and see that little Kittner boy spill out all over the dock. I'm like, that's probably a fair idea.
He was right about that.
And then this is what is a perfect movie, Patrick. The only moment in this movie that makes me angry is Mrs. Kintner coming up and slapping Chief Brody when she says, you knew there was a shark and you let us out there anyways. I'm not saying in her emotional grief of losing her son she shouldn't have done that. I was angry because I'm like, go smack the fucking mayor. He's the douche in all this. He's the problem. He stopped Chief Brody from closing the beaches. I was like, that every time I watch that scene, it gives me a visceral reaction because I'm just like, you were hitting the wrong person, lady.
But Damon, it goes hand in hand with what I was talking about, the guy going big enough. It's the same thing where people end up blaming the wrong person because someone else is trying to get one over on everybody, and they go, oh, I can scapegoat this guy. It's crazy how timely this movie still is when you look at the politics of it. I don't mean like literal I don't mean like Democrat, Republican. I just mean like the social politics of it all. The social politics of the whole thing are still relevant to this day, where it's like people just want the bottom line. They just want to feel satiated. They want to feel satisfied. They want to feel heard. And so in that moment, she was going to feel good by slapping the chief. She's like, or not feel good, but she was going to be like, I'm holding you accountable. He knows damn well he can't go, it's the mayor's fault. I tried to shut the beach down. He knows it's not going to help anything. That's a character trait. That's part of his rooting resume. He takes the slap for the mayor. You and I both know the mayor's the fucking son of a bitch here, but Brody is willing to take the brunt of it. He goes, you know what? At the end of the day, she looks to me for protection, and she lost her son, and she believes the police chief is supposed to protect the kids. I got to take that brunt no matter what this shady ass leisure suit wearing motherfucker is doing in the background. She believes it all comes down on me. So I got to do something about it. And that pushes him over the edge. And him and Hooper decide together, I guess we better go back and go, let's get the money. Let's get the money and let's hire Quint because we know Quint can do it. You're what step am I missing here, Damon?
Come on, you're missing steps here.
Help me.
He goes to Brody's house where he's having dinner, and obviously Chief Brody is still very despondent from the day they had. And he sits down and he says that, he's like, listen, if you want to prove it, we need to go cut that shark open and see what is inside. And he said, it might be the only way we know for sure. So they go out to the pier and they cut it open. It's got a license plate and a can, all this other stuff, a couple of fishes in there. And he's like, that's it. And he's like, so it's not in there. And Hooper tells him, he's like, you got a bigger problem on your hands, Martin. He's like, there's still a shark out there with a mouth about this big. He said, we're going to go look for him. He's a night feeder. And he's like, on the ocean? He's like, well, you're not going to find him on land. And so they go out in Hooper's boat, and Chief's, having the bottle of wine. He's a little drunk. And he goes out into the water, and they're like, there's something out there. He has sonar. He has all the cool equipment in his boat. He's rich. He mentions, he's like, me or the whole family. But he's like, oh no, I'm rich. Yeah. He's like, you. He's like, me or the whole family.
Family's money.
Yeah. And they go out and they find there's an object in the ocean. They can see it in sonar. And so Hooper puts on his scuba gear and hops out and goes looking for what's under there. And he finds a boat. It's all chewed up and gnarled up. And he goes down and he finds in the hull of the boat, he finds a giant tooth, the tooth of a great white. And then Ben Gardner pops up and says, hello. And it scares the piss out of Hooper, us, and every person that's ever watched this movie. That moment didn't shock you. There's something wrong with you. Because the first time I saw this movie, I remember it's like, oh my God, very jolting. And he jumps up in the water and he tells Brody, what happened. And so they try desperately plead with the mayor, you got to shut down the beaches. You're going to have another incident. And the mayor's just like, you just don't understand our problems. And Hooper tries to tell him what he's dealing with.
Mr. Vaughn, what we are dealing with here is a perfect engine, an eating machine. It's really a miracle of evolution. All this machine does is swim and eat and make little sharks. And that's all.
That's it.
That's it.
A miracle of evolution. Yet Mayor Vaughn is like, no, I'm good. We're going to open the beaches. July 4th tomorrow, and it's going to be the biggest summer we've ever had. My favorite parts of the movie is when Mayor Vaughn is being interviewed on the beach, and he's like, well, there was a rumor that some swimmers got injured, but you can see the beaches are open, everything's beautiful, we're all good. He didn't say shark, didn't say the word. He's like, well, there was a rumor that some swimmers got injured. No,
yeah.
A little boy and a girl got eaten alive, but sure, some swimmers got injured.
Yeah, that. You're right, Damon. That is a key critical thing where they go, look, we have more evidence here, and the mayor's denying the call. The mayor has gotten at least three very solid notifications at this point that there is something out there attacking people, and he continues to ignore it. Excuse me, it's daytime over here. The cars are blaring by. So they have their beach day because the mayor needs to show the tourists, hey man, you guys need to come on out. Like, Amity's all right. Don't believe the hype. Don't believe the rumors. Everybody's out on the beach. They're keeping their toes just out of the water. And he comes up to, hey, Earl, or whatever the fuck guy's name is. He goes, get in the goddamn water. Like, no one's getting in the water. Finally, this guy gets in the water, and it kind of gets everybody to relax and go in the water. And then someone pulls a prank, which, again, Damon, talk about social politics. Someone thinks it's funny to mess with a current crisis and create chaos all on its own. That's a real thing that actually does happen. And
I do like the brother just selling out his brother. He's like, he made me do it. He told me to
do
it.
Damon, I got two brothers that hang out here. Believe me, when they get in trouble, one gives the other up immediately. And while that distraction's happening, a fourth attack happens. Excuse me. A fourth attack happens, very horrific. And now Chief Brody's son was a part of the danger. And he ends up in the hospital in shock because he watched a guy get eaten by the goddamn shark. The mayor can't deny anything anymore. It's over. They just ruined it with the television cameras and everything there. Great job, mayor asshole. You did it. Like,
he's
you got
the real villain of this movie. He is the real villain of this movie.
With movies like this, and you can argue this is either a monster in the house style narrative or a creature feature, however you want to shape it. But the creature punishes the sin. The sin in this instance is greed, right? The mayor is, I understand his point of view, but at the same time, you're putting people's lives in danger for what you believe is important, which is the economy of your town. But what really ultimately matters more, and it's lives matter more, like human lives matter way more than the economy of your town. All you had to do was spend a day and $10,000 and this would have been solved. But now we're up Schitt's Creek. It's too late. People are dead. Everybody knows about it. And everybody knows you were the problem. So they ante up. They go, fine, we're going to do it. Hire Quinn, Hooper, Brody, by the way. And I love this. And this is a classic thing. This is a more old school thing. They make Brody terribly afraid of water. Of course, a police chief, the guy in charge of getting this shit done, is scared as shit to go into water. But what does he have to do? He's the chief of police. He's the chief of this town. He needs to get on that boat with Quentin Hooper, and he needs to go out there, and they need to find this shark. I like that element. I like that, and it's simple. And people go, oh, that's too simple. I go, well, simple works. I mean, this is Jaws. We're still talking about this movie 50 years later. We're still talking about this movie because those simple character traits, they work. If you, and we talk about it all the time with modern movies, we go, boy, if they would have just made so-and-so like afraid of dancing and then they went and danced, like it works. I know it's simple, but it will work. It will work with your emotional reaction to these things. So what you're seeing in this moment when Chief Brody's like, we're crossing the threshold into this other world, is a man who is facing his fears on a much more base level than just what needs to get done. That's the plot, what needs to get done. But existentially, he has to get in the water with a terrifying killer, something that he cannot control, something that can easily beat him element for element. He has to face his fears on a much grander level. And then on top of that, Damon, there's just now you get into the character dynamics. You know, Quint's a grizzled old veteran. He didn't give a shit. You know, he'd go out there and hunt an orca if he could. Like, and Hooper's this kind of rich intellect guy. So these opposing forces all have to join together to reach this common goal. That gives you a lot to root for with Chief Brody, and it does it so simply. It's like, just give me characters that don't quite match and give me reasons why what they're doing is so incredibly difficult for them on a personal level. Now I can relate to it. That's genius storytelling.
Well, and I also love the dynamic with Quint and the characters, because Quint, as you mentioned, is a very grizzled old fisherman vet. You know what I mean? And he has like at least through the first like 3/4 of the movie, until he finally kind of snaps. He has like a caring, like he takes care of Chief Brody. Like he's looking out for Chief Brody because he understands Chief Brody is like terrified of the water. He's not a fisherman. He's not never been in the Navy. He's a very like he's terrified. And so like even when they're on the boat and he's teaching him how to tie a sheepshank knot, and he's like looking out, and like when that moment happens where he pulls the knot and the shark cage comes down, and the air compressor things fall down, and Hooper's like, you screw around with these things, they're gonna blow up. And he's like, hey, Chiefy, ask me next time. I'll tell you which rope to pull. He's looking out for the chief. And at the same time, when they have that first encounter in Quint's shop, for lack of a better word, is when Hooper's like trying to tell him, like, I've crewed 3 Transpacks in the America's crew trial or whatever. And he's like, let me see your hands. He's like, you do a shark out in the water, you got 2,000 pounds of fish in a fishing net, and then here comes Mr. Whitey. When he's done, he got a kiddie scissor class cutting up for paper dolls. He's like, you got soft hands, Mr. Hooper, been counting money all your life. and Hooper's just, he's looking at Hooper as this like intellectual, rich asshole. You know, He cares. He takes care of Chief Brody because Chief Brody is naive about this. He doesn't understand the sea. He's scared of the water. And he sees this intellectual rich kid. And he's like, fuck this kid. And so he's constantly like jabbing at Hooper because he's like, Hooper feels entitled. Hooper kind of seems like an entitled kid. I know better than you. I know better than everyone. And so Hooper treats him as such. He's like, oh, you know better than me, huh? And he actually says that. He's like, don't tell me my business, son. He's just like, he's more or less like, fuck this dude. And Chief Brody actually cares about, and they get on the boat, and, they're out in the middle of the water, and he has his giant fishing rod with piano wire as the actual threading, which is crazy. And the thing's clicking, and you see him clicking. Oh my God, one of my favorite scenes in the movie is that scene with the fishing pole.
Yeah.
And a couple clicks, you just see the look on Quint's face, and he's like, And he puts the cookie away in his pocket. And he clicks it, and you see him ratchet himself in. It's just great tension. And you see him put the thing down, puts his feet up on the thing, he pushes the oar down, or pushes the fishing pole down. And he's like, here we go. And then it yanks out in the sea, and of course Hooper's like, come on now, it's a stingray or a marlin. It's not actually a shark. And they go through the motions of like, tracking it, and he's reeling it back in. He's like, he's gone under the boat. He's gone under the boat. Boom, boom, boom. And then finally he pulls it out, and the piano wire snaps, and they don't have the shark. And he's like, let it go, Quentin. He's like, don't try to tell me about my business. Stingray, marlin, bit through this piano wire. Don't ever try to tell me my business, boy. And that's that constant clash between Quint and Hooper of like, who knows this better? Because Hooper thinks he knows everything. He thinks he's like the smartest guy in the room. And Quint's like, I've been hunting sharks for many, many years, son. Don't tell me my business. I love that scene, that whole scene of like kind of putting Hooper in his place. But he's also very much looking out for Chief Brody. Like, he's always very kind to Chief Brody in those moments.
Yeah, I mean, they kind of need each other, like all 3 of them. Like Chief Brody, got Quint the job. Let's be honest with it. Like Quint can blow hard all he wants, but at the end of the day, it was the Chief's call. So he curries his favor because he's like, well, he did put money in my pocket, so I'm going to take that. I'm no fool. Like, I'm getting paid real good money to go find this shark, so I'm going to go find it. But like, they all need each other. They need Quint's experience. They need Hooper's know-how, and they need a leader in Brody, and believe me, at this point, Brody is the one who is just like, I really don't know what to fucking do. I don't know how to work on a boat. I don't know how to tie fucking knots. I don't know the right place to stand and all this shit. Like this is scary to me. All of this is very scary to me. And so they need each other to get through this. But ultimately, this story will keep funneling back to Brody. I don't want to skip too far ahead, but I also don't want to tell most of the movie. You know, they have their great scene where they all kind of bond over scars, which is a classic moment. Everybody knows about that moment. They bond over these scars. And so that softens Quint to Hooper. That softens Quint to Chief Brody, and realize, okay, these are men. They're men they're not quite like me, but they're men nonetheless. Like, it kind of brings him out. And then the shark decides to fuck with their boat and decides to actually sabotage their boat. And it's like, oh, this shark isn't just like a shark. This shark's pissed off at us. The shark has a beef. You know, this is maybe the most shark movie part of this whole movie, is the fact that this shark is going to fuck with their boat. It's going to flood the engines, fuck them over, strand them out in the open ocean. Like, that's what it wants to do. Now we get the sense as the audience, like, oh, this isn't just a shark. It's a killer shark. That's a big difference. Now you're dealing with Jason. Now you're dealing with Michael Myers. And now you're dealing with Freddy. He has a plan for you. He's going to strand your boat out there. He's going to sink it like he did with old Mr. Gardner. And you are going to be munch meat. Like, you just are going to be. Like, that's my plan for you. And so it becomes the fight of their life. Damon, feel free to just wax poetic about the sequence that kind of leads to them fighting this shark really like hand to hand, which is an insane idea. And visually so dynamic. It's such a cool portion of this portion of the movie. To me, is just so insane how they got it done.
So I've seen this movie, as I said, dozens of times. I don't know if I can count. I would probably say this is one of the like 3 movies I've seen the most in my lifetime. I don't know, 50 or 60 times. I have no idea. I've seen it a ton of times. If they ever lost the history of Jaws, the script, I could rewrite it for them because I know this movie so well. From the moment that Chief Brody steps on that boat until the very end, you could put that on for me once a day and I'd never get tired of watching it.
Yeah.
Just that last like 35, 40 minutes of them on the boat together. And you mentioned when the shark attacks the boat, they have that realization, and that's really when they come together as a crew, and they're just like, hold on now, not only have we, and not only we bonded over our scars, and I told you this really traumatic story about the USS Indianapolis when I had my first interaction with sharks, and I saw some of my friends getting killed after we dropped off the Hiroshima bomb. Like, that's a bonding moment in and of itself. But then when the shark attacks, there's no longer this rivalry between Quint and Hooper, and Chief Brody is no longer just like the third wheel on the boat. He's like, we all have to work together for a common cause, because this is not a normal shark. This is a 25-foot great white determined to kill us. And so they really have to bond and work together. For the rest of the movie, they are doing that. Even later in the movie when Quint is like, what kind of tools do you have, Hooper? Because all his tricks have failed. He shoots this thing with barrels, trying to bring it to the surface and basically drown it, or kind of bring it out of the water so it can't breathe anymore, and it dies that way. This shark takes 2 barrels and he's like, fuck your barrels, I'm going back under the water.
Fuck your barrels.
Like, this is an unknown situation. Even Quint, who has killed sharks for I don't know, decades probably at this point, and he's like, this has never happened to me. I've never had a shark not come up from a couple of these barrels I shoot in it, and it drowns or suffocates, for lack of a better word. And they have to team up together to get this common goal. And at that point, Quint switches from finishing a job and getting paid $10,000 to an obsession.
Yeah.
Quint is no longer worried about the money. He's no longer worried about safety. He's no longer worried about the spoils of war. Going home and I'm the conquering hero. None of that matters. This is man versus beast, and I'm going to beat the beast. And he becomes obsessed with that for the rest of the movie. And he will do anything. And I think the biggest key to that is when Brody's like, I'm making a call. Like, this is going too far. Like, this is not working. The engine's all fucked up. Like, this thing is attacking us. We are not going to make it out of here. And he's like, Brody to shore, and he smashes the radio.
Yeah.
Brody's like, oh, that's great. What are we gonna do now? And Quint's like, calm down. He's like, this is Ahab and Moby Dick. This is like the great white whale. This is the great white shark. And he's like, I'm not going to let the Coast Guard come in here and do that.
Yeah.
I don't want another ship coming out here to rescue us because we're in trouble. I'm beating this fucking shark. Come hell or high water. And Hooper's like, oh, boys, he's back for his noon feeding. And from that moment on, like it goes from a job to a pure just bloodlust obsession.
If I could dare criticize this movie, it's not, and this is not even a complaint. It's just in that moment, the radio smashing moment, I almost wanted like 20 more seconds of just silence, of shock. Because the first shock in this moment, the first escalation was obviously why is a shark actually trying to sabotage our boat? Like that part's insane. The next shock is Quint's actions there. When he smashes that radio, you put it all so eloquently. I'm not going to repeat it. But what I needed in that moment was just a few silent seconds of Brody going, you fucked us. You fucked us for your own pride. Like genuinely, like just for the fact that you don't want this animal to beat us because we have to call the Coast Guard in and they bring in a fucking cannon and blow the thing out of the water. Like we're going to die because of you. Like in that, I just wanted some silence in that moment to watch the two of them just like stare each other in the eyes. And Brody realized, oh, this guy's fucking way far gone. I hired a madman, you know, like we could all see it coming, but Brody was desperate and he didn't realize he hired the guy who was willing to die to prove his point, which is the guy you need really in this instance. You need a guy who is willing to die to prove his point because that's drama. That's what you want. I was like, God, if only in this scene I would, and believe me, the camera loves Robert Shaw. If you'd have just had a face off between the two of them, I think it would have made it that much better. Not that it sucks because it doesn't, but I was like, geez, I just want that in that moment. I just wanted that feeling.
And I think the moment, I agree. I think that would have been cool. Obviously, they just start yelling at each other, and he's like, "Well, that's just great.
It's panic,
that's just fucking yeah." I think the moment you're talking about, which works so well, is right when he's smashing the radio. You see Hooper looking into the window, and he's like, "Oh fuck," because Hooper realizes
it was almost comedic. Yeah,
he's just comedic. He's like, "Oh shit, Quint's gone." You know, he realized it in that moment. He's like, "Oh fuck." And that's when he's like, boys, I think he's back for his noon feeding because he's trying to get them distracted from about, like, you can tell Brody's about ready to just go ham on this dude.
Yeah, they're about to fucking die fighting before they even get to the shark.
Yeah. And that battle for survival from then on out, and I'm not going to just rehash and just recap the entire movie from, when Hooper goes down in the shark cage and he's like, you think you can get this little thing in his hide? And he goes down the shark cage. Which, by the way, another masterful shot here because they couldn't get the shark to work properly. That shot that you're seeing in the movie of the shark on the cage thrashing is really a shark.
Yeah.
It's just a small cage and a smaller shark, and they shot that in the water. And so that's a real shark. It's just like an 8-foot shark in a little mini cage.
Yeah.
And you see it thrashing, you see the cage getting all fucked up. And it was actually kind of an accident because they weren't trying to get the shark caught in the wiring. They just wanted him to be by the cage so they could get the shot. But the shark actually got caught on the cage wire. And so it's thrashing to get free. They got the film and they're like, well, I guess we're going to use it. And so that's when you see that violently shaking. That actually happened. It's just a much smaller shark, and they scaled it up for the movie.
I do want to highlight this part of the movie because, obviously we talked about it earlier, and many people have talked it to death why they couldn't show the whole shark because it didn't quite work. The cage scene is so important to just finally facing down how absolutely massive Bruce is. They get a couple of good shots of the mechanical shark coming up against the guy. So you can see kind of the head and gills and you're like, holy shit, that's way bigger than any normal shark. But then those miniatures that they so wisely shot, and it's genius and simple filmmaking. I say simple, it was difficult to shoot, but still a simple idea and executed very well, just makes you realize, oh, I'm dealing with something that is so massively big. We are going to need a bigger boat, for the parlance of our times. I think it was very important to at least have one scene in that movie where you could feel the size of Bruce fully without any of the, because modern audiences could kind of pick it apart. You go, oh yeah, right there. It's clearly, we're only seeing a piece of him, or we're only seeing a piece of that, or a fin or whatever. the cage scene, you see all of Bruce and you're like, we're fucked.
And when the shark attacks the cage, then it's just a sprint to the finish because Hooper escapes the cage and he goes and crawls down underwater into like some, into some brush trying to get away from the shark. And he's just hiding because the shark, he's at a complete disadvantage in the water. Like at any moment, the shark could just dive down there and eat him whole. And in the book, actually, Hooper dies. I don't know if you know that about the book or not. Hooper actually dies in the book. He actually does get eaten by the shark in the cage. There's also a weird part. I didn't mention this in the book. This is not like a huge divergence, but there's actually in the book, Mrs. Brody ends up having an affair with Hooper, which is so weird.
It's my favorite part of the book.
There's a lot of melodrama, like character melodrama in the book, and Spielberg's like, yeah, we don't really need that for this movie. And so they just kind of pulled all that out. But like, it's more of like a societal drama in the book versus like just being a shark story.
Yeah.
But so once Hooper goes down in the water, and then at that point they're pretty much fucked, and then it's just a sprint to the finish of Hooper the boat, or excuse me, Jaws crashing up on the boat, Bruce crashing on the boat, Quint slipping, and then his worst nightmare, he slips into the shark and the shark bites down on him, and he's fighting to the end, man. He's stabbing it with the machete. He's not going down without a fight, but the shark eventually pulls him down under, and we lose Quint. And in all of Brody's estimations, Hooper's dead too because he's gone under the water and not come back up again. And so now you have this guy who is terrified of the ocean, is by himself on a boat, and
that is
here
sinking.
Comes Bruce that is sinking. He crashes through there again. And then at this point, it is Martin with a rifle, and he climbs up onto the highest point of the boat, the masthead, climbs up onto the top, and he's waiting for that thing to come. And the thing had swallowed one of the compressed airs from the Hooper's going to use to go into the scuba suits. And he comes up and he's taking shots. He's just like, blow up, because that's the thing they told you earlier. Remember, if you're going to tell us, use it. He's like, if you mess around with these things, they're going to blow up on you. And he's trying to shoot the thing, and then finally he's like, smile, you son of a bitch, and shoots it, and boom, and Bruce blows up. Which, by the way, I think I haven't seen this in years. I think they did a test on MythBusters. They had a Jaws episode, and they were talking about like the bite strength, and they actually did one about shooting into compressed air, would it blow up? And I think they proved that it wouldn't blow up. Like if you shot it, it would just like the air would just sink out, like it wouldn't actually like explode. Because I think they actually had like a compressed air thing, and then they shot it with a rifle, and it just went.
Thanks, MythBusters, for ruining an absolute classic.
They ruined it. But the shark blows up, and of course Brody celebrates. Ah! And then as he's sinking down the water, then he gets scared shitless when Hooper pops up and he's still alive. And they swim back to shore, and they're like, can we make it back on this? And he's like, yeah. And they swim back to shore, and they've defeated the shark. Sadly, Quint does not make it.
It's a horrific ending. We'll get to those in a minute because we got categories for this. Ultimately, Brody explodes the shark, and now he's just sitting there in the open ocean like, well, I guess I did it. And then Hooper pops back up and they paddle back to shore. I love that. There's so many like epic shots in this final sequence of the movie. Like just as a cinematography geek, I actually once got to sit on a not on a panel, but I could sit in a private panel at the cinematographers, the Association of I forget what it's called, the ASC. Basically the Society of Cinematographers here in America. And Bill Butler was there, and Bill Butler was the guy who shot Jaws, and he goes, it's the hardest job I've ever had in my life, hands down. But man, did that guy deliver some incredible shots, just epic and beautiful shots that to this day I just go, that must have been so insanely difficult to get, but it's perfection. It's a really well-made film, Damon. It's not just, oh, wow, this is cool and effective and scary, but it's kind of low budget and kind of rough around the edges. It's not. It's an incredibly crafted film by a very, very smart filmmaker and a very, very talented crew who probably all hated him after. I'm sure he was like public enemy number one to each and every person on that crew after he drugged them through hell. How many days did they shoot this movie? Like they went way over, right?
They went way over. I can't remember what the actual timeline was, but it was supposed to be done in once like 3 months, and they went like 5 months or something crazy like
yeah,
that.
like
way
some
over.
Insane number of months, way, way, way over. And so they must have absolutely. By the way, working in saltwater is miserable. Just working on a rainy day in a film set is actually pretty miserable. I've done it a few times, and you're just like, this sucks. It sucks to just be having puddles of water everywhere. Never mind actual real ocean water that is bobbing and weaving and slapping you, and sun beating down on you the entire time. There's no way to really keep any shade going. And they put together a miracle of a film, a really, really amazing film. And yeah, Damon, I'm ever floored by this movie, because every time I watch it, I realize it is that good. It is what I thought it was.
It's and I think what is so marvelous about this movie, and I know there's going to be someone in a comment somewhere like, no, it looks like shit. This movie looks good. It holds up. Like, it really does hold up. Like, I know, like, you're dealing with 1973, 1974 props and cameras and effects, and it still looks great. Like, even when Jaws pops up and grabs Quint, like, it looks effective, because they're even when you watch like Shark Week videos, like, sharks are they're not, and in a weird way they picked the perfect animal, because they are just like smooth, animals. Like, you're not dealing with like a leopard with like a spots and fur and stuff. Like, they're just dealing with a very smooth, like, sea creature. And they got it right. Like, it looks good. Like, even though they had so many problems with the mechanical shark, when they do show you the shark, when the shark pops up, bites Quint, kills him, pulls him in the water, like, it all looks really, really good. And it holds up. And I think that separates this movie, when we talked earlier about like The Exorcist. Like, you can say like it's a great movie, but some of the effects are a little rough years later. And same thing with Halloween. Like, there's really no blood or gore at all in Halloween. And some of the jump scares that worked in 1978 don't really get you in 2025. But Jaws works. Jaws still works. And I think what makes this movie such an outlier when you talk about the blockbuster, because when you think of blockbuster today, generally speaking, people will think of, let's say, like Marvel movies or Superman, which just opened. And that's fair. They're all blockbuster movies. That's what they are. There was no such thing as a summer blockbuster when Jaws came out. Back in the 70s, before Jaws was released in 1975, the way film releases worked was they would go city by city and open a movie. So like Godfather would open in New York and open in LA. And then like a week later, it would go to Chicago and Minneapolis and St. Louis and Midwest. Then they're like, okay, we're going to expand it into Arizona and Nevada and wherever. They opened cities, and it would pepper out like over several months. Like, it would take you months to see The Godfather. Like, you'd have to wait, like, oh, it came out in October. I don't get to see it until December when it actually shows up in Ohio. Like, that's how movies used to work. And they took a shot with Jaws where they opened it in a lot of theaters, and it made a boatload of money. And they're like, oh, maybe this is a better idea. I don't know how it took them that long to figure that one out, but they figured it out based on Jaws, and Jaws earning $100 million in 60 days. Now, by today's standards, that doesn't sound like very much. And you're like, 60 days? Because most movies make the biggest chunk of their money opening weekend. Like, they're
That's
like,
how
oh,
they do it now,
open to a $200 million. And then everything goes down from there, because as more time passes, less people go see it. That wasn't the case in the 70s. Like, you would just be like, it would be like a constant stream. Like, would there be like a bunch of people the opening weekend, second weekend, third weekend? Because it would take them that long to see the movie. When Jaws came out, they did drop it as like a multi-screen experience, and like, wow, I guess this works. And it made $100 million in 60 days, which was unheard of. But this movie holds up so well, and I think what makes this the perfect blockbuster is because not only is it harrowing and it gives you a lot of great action scenes and a lot of great dialogue, a lot of great characters, but it all fits together perfectly. And then you encapsulate it all with John Williams' score. I love a good blockbuster. I remember seeing Independence Day in the theater, and I still love Independence Day. But if you're really asking me to get critical, I can get critical about Independence Day and like start picking that apart. I saw Superman last night. I loved it. I thought it was great, but I can pick it apart. I can get a little nitpicky about a movie like that. I can do the same thing for Avengers or any other great summer blockbuster I've seen in the last 20 years. It's really hard to find fault in Jaws. Like, it really is. Like, okay, maybe like the kid acting wasn't great. Well, the kids are not really in this movie that much. And how are you going to criticize Roy Scheider, Robert Shaw, or Richard Dreyfuss?
Yeah.
They're the driving force of this movie. They're the main people in the movie, and they absolutely kill it. There's no weak spot in that trio.
Yeah.
Well, the action doesn't hold up. No. The action's incredible. It's harrowing.
The scene of the boat being spun around by the but I mean, they go wide, like they go way wide. I don't know what they were shooting off a pier or something like that, where they were like at least 100 feet from the boat or longer, and you're watching the boat get pulled by something under the water. You're like, how the fuck did they even do that? Like it's
Yeah.
so incredible.
And then you add in, like, you know, like this movie really does feel like it's been cut into two halves, because you have the first half when there's like the denial of, is the shark real, is it not, and then you get to the hospital and everything changes and it becomes Quint's chase to kill the shark. But there's no weak spots. There's no, like, really, like you talk about, like, you wish you would have had 20 seconds more of them staring each other down after he smashed the radio, but that's just like a minor thing. That's like me with the mom slapping Brody. I'm like, you just slapped the wrong guy. But as you mentioned, like
me asking for the love story. Let's add that in.
Yeah, they need that. They need the chief to get slapped in that moment, because he's taking the blame for something he had no control over. He tried to close the beaches. He tried to warn people, and the mayor's like, no, we're good. But that does give you that visceral reaction of getting anger. Like, why is the chief being blamed? He was the voice of reason. He was the caution trying to get these people to take notice of a fucking shark in the water. But this movie holds up so well for a blockbuster, and I think it's weird because when you think about movies of today's age, and we've talked about this a lot with award shows, one of my biggest frustration with the Oscars is that a lot of the films they pick so often feel inaccessible. They're really like super, super niche movies. And even I, as like a cinephile, I'm like, even sometimes I'm like, this is like, it's good, but it's a rough watch. Like, it's hard to get through a movie, and this is not going to appeal to a wider audience. And it bums me out because I feel like they ignore good quality big movies. Like, this year, I think, or 2026, I guess, I'm hoping they're going to get it right with Sinners, because Sinners was a massive hit, and it's also been a critically acclaimed movie. They kind of did it with Get Out. They kind of did it with Logan a little bit when that came out. They did it with a couple of things. They did it with Black Panther when that first came out. They've had a couple of those. They're getting a little bit better. But Jaws, like, this is everything. It's a critically acclaimed movie. It's a movie that has gotten better with time. It's a movie that's being more revered over time. It's a well-acted movie, well-directed movie, well-plotted movie, well-scored movie. There's no flaw. And, like, you can't say that about a movie of this size and scale. Generally speaking, you have to go a lot smaller because there's less room for error in a smaller movie, right? Like, when you think about The Brutalist, which was a great movie last year, it's a very long movie, but it's not a
really
big,
long.
it's not a big movie. You know what I mean? It's not, it's not a gargantuan movie with effects and all this kind of stuff. This movie is big, but it's also great. And it's just the rare instance of, like, kind of like, I know this is a weird comparison when I talk about movies. It kind of reminds me a little bit like No Country for Old Men. Mm-hmm. Like, No Country for Old Men is not a big movie necessarily. It's still a pretty small movie. And it's, again, minor characters, but the action beats, the dialogue, the characters, it's all just pitch perfect. And the whole movie plays out in really harrowing fashion. And there's really just not a lot I can critique about a movie like No Country for Old Men. Like, that's just a really, really well done movie, and also accessible. Jaws is probably one of the most accessible movies of all time. And it's also, as I would argue, just pretty much perfect.
I don't have much notes, Damon. When I say much notes, I don't have any notes at all. It really is. It really is one of those movies. I'm assuming it's probably time for us to get into categories, wouldn't you say?
Yes.
But
I
Damon,
think we should.
Before we do that, before we get into categories, we're not just here for our health. We are here to say, please sign up for the Patreon. Patreon.com/rewind of the living dead. There's already bonus episodes up there. Once again, you're going to get an ad-free version of the show, because I think ads are coming to our show sooner than later. Just the nature of the beast, if you will, the nature of Jaws in this instance. Ads will be coming to the show, but if you're on Patreon, you'll get the ad-free version. You will also get a potential once a month a summer blockbuster. You want to hear us talk about Superman? Because we got thoughts. You join the Patreon, vote on that, get in on that. $5 a month. That's all we're talking. It's not that much when you really think about it. It's definitely cheaper than a regular meal at a fast food place. That's all we're asking for. One time a month, and you get a lot of cool different features. They're going to create a whole brand new experience for you. Patreon.com/rewind of the living dead. Please join the rotten ones.
And now, Patrick, let's get into categories for Jaws, and let's kick things off as we do each and every week here on the show, and let's talk about best performance and why best performance is Robert Shaw, because I'm just going to spoil it here.
Yeah, the best performance is Robert Shaw because holy shit. I don't know. I should have checked ahead of time and I did not. Did Robert Shaw win an award for this? Did he win the Oscar for this?
He did not. So at the 1975 Academy Awards, they didn't even get nominated.
Wow.
It got nominated for Best Picture. It won Best Original Score, it won Best Film Editing, and it won Best Sound. But it was only nominated for that. It did get nominated for Best Picture, but did not win.
I mean, at least it was nominated for Best Picture, but Robert Shaw's performance as Quint is legendary. I don't think anyone can deny that. Now, the rumors are that he was absolutely unruly on set, that he basically became Quint, that he was drunk on set, he was fighting with everybody, he was a pain in the ass. But I cannot deny, I don't know those things to be true. I know the stories. I wasn't there. I do know that it's one of the best performances I've ever seen of anybody. And I just recently I'd watched Robert Shaw in The Taking of Pelham 1, 2, 3. You ever seen that film?
I have. I've seen that and the remake. Both actually really good.
Yeah, and he's in that as well. He's kind of the main bad guy in that, and he's like a completely different person. Yeah. This guy here, I'm terrified of Quint. You don't want to run into a guy like Quint. He's a blowhard, he's an asshole, and he can back it up. He's one of those guys. That's who he is. And I mean, I wasn't sure that he wasn't a grizzled old fisherman. I was like, I think he is. Like, I really think he is, even though I knew he had a complete history before this as a very accomplished actor. He'd been in tons of stuff, but I was just like, the only thing I can see right now is a real and serious grizzled old fisherman. Nothing about him, his mannerisms, his movements, the way he spoke, the way he kind of droned on. He reminded me a lot of my uncles on my mom's side, like drunkards. Like that's how they behaved. And I was like, wow, he's really got it down. Turns out it's probably because he was drunk. But my God, what a performance.
Obviously, just to bring on a little bit of a dour note here, sadly, Robert Shaw died in 1978. He only died a few years after this movie came out. And I'm saying this with no irony. I'm not saying this with any, I think he could have done it. I'm saying that if Robert Shaw had been able to stick around and act more, I think we'd be comparing him to, Daniel Day-Lewis. That's how good he was.
No,
he was a phenomenal actor. And sadly, he died in 1978, so we'll never know how good he could have been. But he is incredible. I mean, this is one of those movies when you hear the awards, when I tell you that they did win a couple of Academy Awards, but they just didn't win any acting and they didn't win Best Director. They didn't get nominated.
They weren't nominated. Yes, insane.
It's one of those, it's very much of Goodfellas, where you go back to 1991, the Oscars, and you're like, how did only Joe Pesci win? How did that movie not just clean up at the Oscars and win every Oscar? Somehow Jaws didn't. It didn't get nominated for all this, but Robert Shaw's performance was pitch perfect. It was amazing, and it's got. I keep saying it's a perfect movie, top 5 movie for me all the time. I don't know where I'd rank it best performances ever, but it's up there. It's up there, one of the strongest acting performances I've ever seen.
I'm speechless. I would love. I'm probably gonna have to go on YouTube and just watch a supercut of all his scenes. Because they were just something to behold this time around. When I was really thinking about it with we've said in the past, our podcast brains, where we're really analyzing the movie as we enjoy it. And I was just like, this is acting on another level. He's out acting everybody by far.
So we have a guest who's just joined us. I wonder if he'd like to talk to us about.
I would love it if our guest would join us right now.
I think he would. Here's our buddy Slasher Talk, Justin.
Hey.
Can you hear us?
What up, fellas? How are you?
We are good. We are in the middle of our Jaws review, and if there's one man who loves shark movies, it is you. You are a shark enthusiast, my friend.
Brother, I went through a gauntlet the last weekend. I watched 10 shark movies in 3 days. I just got the urge, and I was like, we're just going to go.
So is it just is it like Jaws and then everything else? Because that's kind of where I think we all go, right?
Yeah, I mean 100%. That's why, because I posted on my Instagram, and I was like, oh, going through a bunch of shark films, and it's funny, but I had a couple people go, heard of Jaws? And I'm like, yeah.
Yeah, maybe.
Yeah. So, but yeah, no, pretty much. I mean, I can't wait to see it when they put it back in IMAX.
Yeah.
I saw it for the 40th when they like not in IMAX, but when they put it back in the theaters for the 40th, I was blown away. I was like, this is so good. Because obviously, like I didn't get a chance to see it when it first came out, on the
That makes
big
all of us.
screen. But just seeing it, even after seeing it so many times, like seeing it on the big screen was just a whole other experience. So IMAX should be fantastic. But yeah, no, it's Jaws, and then like pretty much fight for second because it's not happening.
I'm just curious. What we just started categories and we'll jump right back into them. But I'm just curious, what in your opinion comes second? Because to me, it's so hard to even say anything is even remotely close to Jaws. So
No,
what could be anywhere near it?
It's so hard because like also I have been viewing these shark movies because a lot of them they're not just hey, like there's a shark attacking the beach and the town is like there's you have to do so much more. So like when I watched 47 meters down, like I have 10 plus years of scuba dive experience now. So like there's all these certain scenes in 47 meters down. I was like, dude, I've been in that situation, not like cage crash and all this kind of stuff, but like pure blackness and having to deal with like the air tanks and stuff, like so you have a more like personal, like visceral experience with those kinds of things. So like 47 meters down I think is up there, but like I really liked the Reef. I think the Reef is great. I haven't rewatched The Shallows or Deep Blue Sea because I started cranking through like just a bunch that like I hadn't seen forever. But like you always hear about the Shallows, Deep Blue Sea, but I think The Reef is incredibly underrated. And then one that nowhere near second place, but this will be your favorite, Patrick. Open Water 3 is like a found footage.
Yes.
Is like a found footage take on like being out in the ocean and stuff with sharks and stuff, and it just had this like different, after slamming through like 12 shark movies in 2 days, I'm like, this one sticks out just because it's an entirely different approach. So
yeah,
but no, at the end of the day, it's Jaws.
It's got to be Jaws.
Yeah,
it's funny you said. Did you? I think you may have done a review on this on your TikTok channel, which is a phenomenal channel. Did you saw Dangerous Animals, right?
Oh yeah, yep.
Did you enjoy Dangerous Animals a little? Like,
I enjoyed it, but I think that it wound up being more like serial killer than it did like. To me, it felt more serial killer that just so happens to like use sharks, and I think like I don't want to say they mismarketed it because I don't think that they did, but they laid very heavy on like this is a shark, like it's a serial killer, sharks, but like the sharks were like very secondary and they were teased a ton. It was like, oh, we're getting to the shark stuff. No. I liked it, but I figured I'd walk out being like, oh, that was badass. And I was like, yeah, okay. It was fine.
It's funny, for all the shark movies I've seen, and I've seen a couple of those you mentioned, like I remember seeing Open Water in the theater. And I was like, this is different, it's unique. And I love Deep Blue Sea. Like, it's cheesy. It's not actually a great movie, but I do love it. Like Samuel L. Jackson, LL Cool J. Like, it's a fun movie. It's not a great movie. It's a fun movie. But it's almost when I talk about television, I always say, like, people are like, what's your favorite television show of all time? And I'll rattle off TV shows. I'll be like, well, The Sopranos, but The Sopranos is just, it's in its own category. I can't compare other shows to The Sopranos. That's like talking about like shark movies with Jaws. Like there's Jaws and then there's just everything else.
100%. I will say Open Water, the original one, it gets a lot of shit for like how it was filmed, because it's like very like independent, very cheap, almost found footage vibes, but it's not, like it's not, but it kind of has that that vibe. What's funny is you hear the comment a lot, and I said it a couple times in my review of like, yeah, this is like an exciting shark movie, but like, would that actually happen? Like, there's just some things that's just like, yeah. Open Water is probably the most realistic. You're just kind of floating out in the water, and like a baby shark might come up and like check you out, but like it might pull you under 9 hours after. But like, it's not a very exciting shark movie, but it's probably one of the most realistic for sure.
Yeah, I felt very like immersed in that one.
Yeah.
So we were getting into some categories, and I know I'm kind of throwing you off the cuff here, Justin. We were just getting into some of our favorite parts of Jaws, but I'm assuming you can probably speak to this just as much as we can. And we were just talking about, we were talking about best performance, which we both agreed was Robert Shaw. And we were talking about, we were going to get into some other categories. So I'll just kind of throw it to you since we're getting into this. And we're going to talk about best scare, because at the end of the day, this is still, I just said this earlier, I still think this is a truly scary movie. Like, it's one of the few, like, you are a scuba diver. You will not get me near the ocean. I'm not going near the ocean. You can't convince me of it otherwise. Do you have a favorite scare from Jaws? Like, whether it was your first time you saw it as a kid or now, like, is there a favorite moment that still scares you about Jaws?
I mean, it's hard not to do the, when Bruce comes through the water for the first time, that
we're going to need a bigger boat.
Like, dude, it's hard not to just point towards that. It's just so iconic, and just like, it's your first, like, oh shit, that's a shark, dude. Like, yeah.
And Patrick, we just talked about the line, and you messed it up. You said,
I know.
We're going to need a.
Everybody knows it that way.
You're going to need a bigger boat.
So, yeah, you're going to need a bigger boat.
You are going to need a bigger boat. We know this.
You're going to need a bigger boat. Patrick, what about you? What was your favorite scary moment?
Honestly, my scariest moment, and it always has been, I mean, and that one's, believe me, iconic and classic. It's still Ben Gardner Says Boo. When Hooper's down there scuba or skin diving, looking for what's going on under there or whatever, and Ben Gardner's head pops up and just right in your face with the eyeball missing and everything, it sends a chill down your spine. When you talk about chilling, that's an absolutely chilling moment. So, when I was a little kid, it scared the shit out of me. Now I'm just like, whoa, like, it gets me in my spine. It gets me in my stomach. Like, it is just a great scare on a very base level. It just works. Dark water, hole, can't see what's going on. And then all of a sudden there's a dead body in your face. It works.
Yeah, that head bouncing out, like, I think that's probably still tops for me too, because I remember watching that as a kid and it scared me. And to this day, like, I know it's coming, and I'm still sometimes caught a little off guard by it, because, like, when's the head popping out? Oh, there's the head popping out. It's a great jump scare, and it's a really effective one, because you just don't see it coming, especially the first time you see it, because you're like, there's a hole in the boat. Clearly the sharks attacked the boat. Everyone's probably dead. And then here comes this head out of nowhere. And it's a very jarring moment. And I think Hooper has the same reaction we probably all had watching that for the first time. What about, we talk about best chum. We said best chum, best kill. There's a lot of kills in this movie. There are quite a few people who do not make it out of this one alive. I'm throwing this completely out. So we know at the end it's Hooper and Brody that survived. Did they pick the right people? Are we okay with Brody and Hooper? Should Quint have made it? Are we okay with who actually died?
I'm going to interject and just say it's poetic that he died the way he died because of what he's talking about on the USS Indiana, right? Like, he's talking about having survived in the water for, 72 hours or something with his friends, and then hearing the screams. That's the part I love so much about that little speech, when he talks about the screams, and then the way he dies, screeching and screaming. So I'm not even saying that's my choice. I'm just saying that, like, poetically, that's the reason why Quint needed to die. Like it was all coming back around story wise. It was just wrapping itself up. It's like ultimately this man's obsession, when he smashes the radium, he's like, no, I'm going to beat this shark. His obsession ended up killing him. That's why he ended up in the mouth of Jaws, because he didn't seek the help of the Coast Guard. He shunned it to come after him. So yeah, I just on a personal opinion, he was meant to die, is my point.
Yeah, I agree. I think he had to die. Although, like I said, I do. The book kills everybody but Brody. I'm not upset Hooper made it by any stretch of the imagination, but like I could have seen a case where they're like, yeah, you go down the shark cage, you play around with sharks, you're going to get sharked. So I think I could see a world where Hooper doesn't quite make it. Do you have a favorite kill in Jaws, Justin? You have a favorite one that stands out for you, your favorite kill in Jaws?
It's probably like the most basic answer, but it's like when I think of a kill from Jaws, my brain automatically just goes to that opening. Like the opening is just it just sets the tone for the entire film. And like that underwater shot, you see your legs just kick in, and the soundtrack and just everything. Like it might not be like the best kill in the movie or whatever, but like when somebody says like a kill in Jaws, I just go right to that cold open. It's just fantastic.
Patrick, what about you?
That was gonna be my pick, and then I ended up going with Alex, the first kid who's killed at the beach, because this time around, it really hit me how gruesome his death is. He's on that little yellow inflatable raft or whatever it is, and when the shark hits him, you don't really see what happens, but all of a sudden, you see this roiling water turn red, and it's a kid. It's a fuck them kids moment, like 100%.
Mm-hmm.
And so you're just like, holy shit. And then the kid is screaming and gets dragged under. And then the end of that with the punctured raft hitting the shore and it's surrounded by red water. It's disturbing. So where the first one, and we talked about it a little bit earlier too, Justin, that the skinny dipper kill is so viscerally terrifying on a primal level. It's a terrifying kill. This one disturbed me. I was like, oh, the way he dies here is very disturbing.
I gotta side with Quint's death for my favorite, because that scene is so, because the entire time we spend with Quint, he is kind of like a man's man. He's very much like the badass of the crew, and you see his first little hint of fear when he turns to Hooper and says, "Do you have what can you do? What can you do to stop the shark?" Because he's out of ideas. He's like completely exhausted trying to stop this shark, and when he turns to Hooper and he's like, what kind of tricks do you have up your sleeve? Because I got nothing left. You see that first little bit of fear in his eyes. And then when that boat gets attacked, you see him slipping down the boat and he's reaching out and Brody's holding onto his hand. You see true fear in his eyes. He knows the end's about to be met. And when he goes into the Jaws mouth and he's stabbing it with the machete, when Bruce bites down and crunches and the blood goes splurting out of his mouth, oh, it's just so horrific. And as you said, it is kind of poetic because it's how Quint talked about being on the USS Indianapolis, and that's how he got his first kind of fascination with sharks. And that is a fitting end. You mentioned it is a fitting end, but man, it's just rough to watch. You're like, he was supposed to be the guy. He was supposed to be the one to defeat the shark, and instead the shark defeated him. So that scene always gets me, and just it's like, oh man.
Seeing him in the mouth, that wide shot of him of the mouth coming down on him, and it's just like, holy shit, like.
Yep.
I don't think my kids have ever seen that scene. They go diving on YouTube for all these different horror scenes. That's one of the ones where you're just like, this is the true horror in this movie. Like the purest horror moment is seeing Quint in that wide shot being eaten by Bruce. And you're just like, Jesus Christ, that's fucking heavy.
Yeah, it's so good.
What about best gore? There is definitely some gore in this movie. Actually, which we were talking about this earlier, Justin. It's wild to think this is a PG movie, which is kind of wild when you think about like movies that like we were talking about. We did a review, and I Know What You Did last summer, and it's rated R. We're like, how is this rated R? Like it's like there's no blood, they barely curse, there's no nudity. Like how did this movie get rated R? And Jaws is PG. It's PG.
It was years back. I think like when I went to go watch it in the theater. I saw that it was like PG. Like it just never dawned on me. I was like, wait, what are you talking about?
Rated what?
Because you're exactly right. Where it's like, hell, like there's so many rated R films within like the last couple of years. I was kind of like, dude, that's one scene away from being PG. Like, what are we talking about? But Jaws is PG. Okay, like.
So do you have a favorite gore moment in this movie?
Damn. Throw me to the wolves. Off the top of my head, I can't really think of one. It's probably just the pressure. I did good with the first two questions.
No, yeah, we didn't give any prep time for this, so we appreciate it.
No,
I'll throw out mine.
Yeah,
Jog your memory, and it's actually going back to Patrick's best kill, and it is Alex Kintner getting eaten in the water, because when he gets attacked, and this goes back. I don't want to repeat what we've already talked about, but this goes back to the genius of how Steven Spielberg shot this movie, where he just had to work around not having a mechanical shark that actually worked. He had to come up with all these different techniques and things to use to actually make it look scary. And when Alex gets attacked, and you see a fin, and you see the thing get flipped up, and you see his hands, and then you see him get pulled under the water, and you hear him gurgling, and then you just see a fountain of blood, like not quite Johnny Depp in Nightmare on Elm Street, but a fountain of blood just bubbles up to the surface, and you hear him like gurgling, and then just gone, like he's eaten. That is so harrowing, and just seeing people's reaction of like, oh shit, like this little boy is getting eaten. And by the way, in that moment, like, you can't stop it. You can't save him. Like, what are you going to do? Go fight the shark and go punch the shark in the nose? No, you're going to get eaten too. So watching that blood bubble up out of the water, it gets me every single time. It's a very like visceral scene. Patrick, what is your favorite gore?
It is different, actually. It is the scene in the estuary where the guy, he's kind of like telling the kids like, hey, what are you guys doing over here? And he gets attacked by the shark. And then they cut to the shot of his leg falling and hitting the ocean floor. I'm not unconvinced they just severed a guy's leg and threw it on the bottom of the ocean. It's still some of the most realistic gore I've ever seen. I watched it so closely because it's always stuck with me. Like there's hair, there's like curly hair on it. When it hits the ground, like the muscle shakes in a way that looks like human flesh. And, of course it's bleeding, chopped and bleeding out of the top of it. But I was like, how is that not a real leg? Like everything about that looks, to this day, it's probably the most realistic thing in the entire movie in terms of like just looking at it and scrutinizing it. You can scrutinize Bruce sometimes. There's a couple of moments where you're like, yeah, it's not a real shark. But that leg, like, tell me how on earth that's not a real leg.
You guys okay over there? The guy with the super thick Boston accent.
Yeah.
He's like, you guys okay over there? And then, he gets upended and just gets bit in half by the shark. And then the girl, which, by the way, I do commend, there's some really strong, if I was going to criticize any acting in here, it's the girl on the shore going, shark! It's a shark! I'm like, yeah, okay, the extra, maybe she's probably not.
Damon, it was the 1970s, man. That's how people talked. It was very real.
Well, and then you go back and you say, like, you can like criticize Bruce, but like, yo, like it was the 70s.
In that time, you weren't
that was
teams at all. Yeah.
That was, it was a physical thing. And so like, that's why like a lot of these newer films, like, yeah, like doing these more exciting, more ambitious things with these CGI sharks, but like the shark doesn't look real at all. Criticize Bruce all you want on like, oh, that's not a real shark. I mean, it looks a lot better than most shark films that are made right now. Like
most
it's
CG sharks,
actual fucking shark. Like, yeah. So.
Yeah, talked about the CG.
Let's not forget, this is the guy who goes on to make dinosaurs. So Steven Spielberg's got a knack for this shit. So
yeah, he really knows what he's doing.
He knows what he's doing. Pop, sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, Patrick. Go ahead.
No, I was just saying that, like, when I think about even Dangerous Animals, which we talked about, that final shot of the shark jumping out of the water, and it looks absolutely fake. And
Yep.
nothing about it looks real. And you're like, wow, that really took me out of the movie. Like, there's no way you're taken out of this movie because there's so much more visceral scares,
Yeah.
visceral dread that is like shaped around it, and then just obscuring the shark in the right times and the right places makes it work.
And I just think that's what it's Jaws really unfairly just screwed everybody for sharks, because like to try to you can't really outdo Jaws, because how you outdo Jaws is you have a great white shark breach the fucking top and swallow this guy whole, and you see it, but you can't film that.
Wouldn't
Like
you know,
it-
we've got a
like-
category talking just about that, Justin.
Yeah, and it's just like, damn, like you can't. Yeah,
So, but we usually do a category here. Can we survive this horror film? And I'm going to cut it slightly differently here, Patrick, because I'm not getting on the fucking water. So there's just this is like a chicken and the egg situation, because like Jaws has affected me so much I don't go in the ocean. So it's like, if I had never seen Jaws, could I? I mean, yeah, I guess I would die if I was in the ocean, but because of Jaws, I'll never go in the ocean. So it's kind of like, yeah, it's chicken and the egg, because which came first, my fear of the ocean or Jaws? Jaws was there, so I'm not getting in the fucking ocean. Justin, I want to turn to you because you are a certified scuba diver. Have you actually swam with sharks? I assume at some point you've probably done that, right?
I've done a lot of sharks. My one of my, it's like my fourth scuba dive. I did open water, like an actual scuba dive with sharks. I've done that like 3 times. There's like reef sharks and things, but then I've done several like snorkels with sharks, and they like come to like the top of the water and they like chum and do all that kind of stuff. The craziest thing I've done that was I was in the water with like 15 bull sharks, no fucking cage, just 40 miles off the coast. They were in my face, just like right here. That was kind of nuts, but yeah, plenty of experience with sharks.
And I know if they're actually, we talk about like this is a perfect film, and I think it is a perfect film. If there's one criticism, like real criticism of Jaws, it's the fear that people became of sharks. People like actually started hunting and killing sharks, and like the shark population got ravaged because people were like, "Oh, they're man eaters." In reality, and please correct me if I'm wrong, Justin, because you actually are certified in this. Sharks are not actually like, do we occasionally hear about a shark attack? Yes, it's usually because someone's in a part of the ocean they probably shouldn't be in. They're swimming, they look like meat, they look like dinner, and they get attacked by a shark. But sharks are not inherently man eaters. They're not out there like, ooh, it's a guy, let me eat him. Like you're just like, you're here to tell the story. You swam with sharks, they didn't try to eat you.
One of my best memories is my first scuba dive with sharks. I was swimming right next to this like 7.5, 8 foot reef shark. And I was literally like, from, me, shark. And I was pumping my legs as hard as I could to keep up with it. And it's just slowly gliding, and I'm like, dude, this is so cool, what an experience. And then you just saw at the corner of its eye, it like looked at me and it was like, I'm sick of you now. And just in one little kick, that motherfucker was gone. And it was like it was like it's a sense of me being like, I am not supposed to be here. This is not where I'm supposed to be. And if that thing wanted to kill me, it would do it instantly. But it let me swim next to it for 4 to 5 minutes. And then once it was done, it was like, okay, you've had enough. And dude, if they wanted to just go out there and take all of us out, they would have no problem.
So Patrick, I assume, I don't know, are you making it through Jaws? Because I'm not getting in the water. So yes, I do make it.
Yeah,
in the fucking ocean.
I think I make it through Jaws because I'm not a total dope. But it would be me and Justin on the boat waving to you, standing at the shore with just water lapping on your ankles, going, "Get the fuck out of here, guys! I'm not doing it." And then it would be me and Justin paddling all the way back for sure. Like I'm not foolish, I guess is my point. And I think a lot of the people who ended up as shark meat in this movie were being foolish. And if I'd have got caught in wind that there was a shark in the water, I don't think I'd have been in the water. A killer shark, I should say. I wouldn't have been in the water.
So we are about to get to our last couple categories. We actually have another guest joining us real quick. Patrick, would you like me to bring in our other guest who's going to jump in for the close of this podcast?
By all means, because this is maybe the most hotly contested category. So it's good to have a few more opinions on this.
All right. So we're going to bring in our new guest, Alexis. Oh. Welcome to Rewind of the Living Dead.
Yes, thank you for having me. I'm so pumped to be here.
Sorry, we were in the middle of chatting. I saw you there. I didn't want you to jump out, so I'll make sure we can bring you in. Alexis Chainsaw Massacre, incredible channel on TikTok. Obviously, we appreciate your support of our podcast, and with us doing our Patreon launch tonight, we wanted to get you on, and we are currently about to finish our Jaws conversation, so we wanted to bring you in for our final bit of our Jaws conversation. How are you?
I am wonderful. How are you guys doing?
Good. We're doing great. 2.5 hours strong. We're still live.
Hell yeah.
We're still going. So, all right. So we're getting to the most controversial category of the night with Jaws. I don't know, Alexis, I'm throwing you on the spot here. Are you a Jaws fan? Do you like Jaws?
Oh, I love Jaws. I'm not like super well versed. I had it on the other night, but I was fucking around with some other stuff. So in terms of like knowing the characters and things real well, don't ask me about that, but I do have great love for the movie. I will say I've never seen the sequels. It doesn't sound like I need to. But I'm not going to lie. I would love to see Jaws the Revenge. That sounds like my type of movie. But I love Jaws.
Okay, so it's actually perfect you're here then, because this is a category I think someone who's not quite as obsessed with the movie would actually probably give a better answer, right, Patrick, in terms of like the controversy of this question.
This is the perfect forum to have because of Alexis's relationship with Jaws. So this is perfect to have her in here for the parody of it all.
So Alexis, I'll throw it to you first. Jaws is an all-time classic. We can all agree on that, one of the greatest movies ever made. But can this movie ever be remade? Can you ever make a Jaws reboot? And I'm asking you first because you're not like the hardcore Jaws fan. Like, you don't have the Jaws posters on your walls. So you are probably the best person to ask because you're not connected to this movie the same way a lot of people are, where it's like, oh my God, you can never touch it. Can you remake Jaws, or should it always be left alone?
So I would rather it didn't. However, I think they could. But it has to be done in the right ways. No fucking CGI sharks in this one, like they love to do. That's the big thing. Like, don't keep that out of the mix. You have to do it right. You have to put the love and the care that the OGs did if you're gonna do it. Because I feel like they're gonna try to at some point. I think it's probably gonna come. I'm kind of surprised after 50 years it hasn't. But I think I wouldn't be surprised if they did. They just have to go about it the right way. No CGI. That's my standpoint on it.
Justin, what about you? Jaws remake. Is it possible?
I feel like if they haven't done it yet, there's probably good reason. Because I feel like when you talk like remakes, like we are like most everything has already been touched. So I feel like it's right there. I feel like there's a reason why they haven't yet. It's just because what else do you do? Like, I feel like a lot of shark movies, they don't remake Jaws. They just call it something else because you can't slap Jaws. It's just, I feel like that they could. Would it be successful? I don't know. My opinion is I hope that they never touch it. Because I just feel like you can just name it whatever else you want. Just leave the Jaws name off of it, because it's like it's been 50 years at this point. If you haven't touched it yet, just don't.
Patrick, can it be done?
I mean, the easy answer is absolutely not, right? I mean, it is quite an amazing movie. But there was this funny little, I guess, joke. It was a rumor first that turned into a long running joke. And I absolutely love it. And on the last watch of Jaws, this kept floating around in my mind and I couldn't ignore it. Rob Zombie's Jaws. Now, hear me out. Okay. Everybody goes, ah! Yeah, everybody explodes immediately. Something that I noticed this time around, forget about the shark and the boat stuff and all the great cinematography that can all be had. And even the animatronics, the Deep Blue Sea, those sharks were real drone sharks. They almost looked real, like when they're actually in the water. I think all of the practical effects could still be done to this day. Rob Zombie's pretty good with gore, so I trust him on that. But that wasn't the thing that got me this time around. What got me this time around, where I was like, I think he might be able to, it's the casting. Rob Zombie, love him or hate him, the man can cast a film to make what is a Rob Zombie film. And these people in this little town of Amity were so Rob Zombie coded because they were kind of real. They were kind of gritty. They were kind of ugly. They were kind of stupid. Like, that's what directors miss when they remake stuff, is that the casting often makes the movie. And you look at like Chief Brody, by the way, Chief Brody in that movie, a year younger than I am now, if you can even believe that. But he's like a grizzled New York street cop. Like, there's something about him that actually like works for that moment. And then you have this sort of, academic and Hooper, played by young Richard Dreyfuss, and he's just squirrely and squeaky enough, and it works in what he's doing. And then of course you have this blowhard captain in Quint. You need to cast guys and girls that feel that way, that like feel real and touchable and texturized and all that shit. And so I'm like, I would never remake this thing. I would never touch this thing. But if I was going to give it to a director, I would give it to Rob Zombie, because he would know to cast it that way. Because you would miss that. Everybody in Amity would be pretty. They'd be taking selfies and blah, blah, blah. They'd miss the point. This is a dirty little town that requires that requires tourists every summer. They're all kind of a little bent and a little crooked. You need a director who would know how to do that. So if it had to be remade, gun to my head, it's Rob Zombie's Jaws with Sherry Moon Zombie playing the shark, of course.
Yeah,
obviously.
I mean, I think I might have been more. I think I might have been more on board, because I'm gonna throw this out at you. It's gonna make you sad, because sadly he's gone. But imagine this: Sid Haig as Quint. I think Sid Haig would have been a great.
Sid Haig would have been a killer Quint. By the way, Damon, we're not out of the Rob Zombie universe yet. Will Forsythe, who played Chief Wydell in Devil's Rejects, tell me he wouldn't be a killer Quint.
Oh, he would. Yeah, he's good.
He would be killer as Quint. Like, I'm telling you, jokes aside, that's why Rob Zombie could remake Jaws.
So my real answer is what Justin said. You haven't done it yet. It's 50 years. Why bother? Like, this is one of those rare movies where they're just like, let's just leave it alone. But if you're forcing me to take a stand on like something slightly different, I saw a quote a couple weeks ago by Steven Spielberg where he said, "I'm never going to retire. I'm going to keep making movies till the wheels fall off. I'm never walking away." And his daughter's making movies now. She's had a movie come out in Tubi recently. Steven Spielberg is still out there doing the damn thing. While James Cameron is wasting his life on these fucking Avatar movies, when we could be getting like a good Alien sequel, or Fede Alvarez did a good Alien, so we know what I mean. Like, we get another Alien or another Terminator out of him. No, he's got to make these fucking Avatar movies. Mm-hmm. Steven Spielberg, if he actually wanted to do it, and I'm not talking about remake, I'm talking about a legacy sequel. Because the Jaws sequels, some of them are kind of fun. We can laugh all day about how bad Jaws the Revenge is, because literally the shark has vengeance for the Brody family, which is one of those batshit ridiculous like ideas ever in a movie. They're bad movies. None of them are really that good. But if Steven Spielberg's like, you know what, dude, I got like 5 movies left in me. I want one of them to be not a reboot, not a remake, just a Jaws legacy sequel in 2025 or 2026, and you're dealing with Brody's kids or grandkids or however. You don't even have to have the Brodies involved, to be honest. You don't have to, but you could. Just if you're going to do it, and he's got it. Because here's the thing, like, Jaws is such a unique movie, but when you think about it, like, Jurassic Park has a similar-ish theme, and there have been good Jurassic Park sequels. Like, we just talked about Rebirth. Like, that was a pretty fun sequel. Jurassic World, pretty fun sequel. if he had an idea, and this is only if Steven Spielberg's involved, if he had an idea and he's like, you know what, I have an idea for a Jaws legacy sequel. 50 years later, it's going to be called, Jaws the Rebirth. Please don't just call it Jaws. Please, for the love of God, don't just call it Jaws. Jaws the Rebirth, Jaws Reborn, whatever. If Steven Spielberg had inspiration to want to do a legacy sequel, I'd be down for that. But otherwise, I'm with Justin. It's been 50 years. Don't fuck with it. You haven't fucked with it yet. Don't do it now. So my real answer is no. But if you want to give me one little way in, it's if Steven Spielberg's like, you know what? I'm not going to make Avatar movies. I'm going to make another Jaws movie. And I'm not going to go down the path of James Cameron where I'm going to spend the last year of my career making fucking underwater sea people movies. I'm going to make Jaws. So
tell us how you really feel, Damon. Jesus.
Yes.
Amen, brother.
Fuck Avatar.
I agree.
So. Talking about a filmmaker, just an all-time great filmmaker. And he's like, you know what? I'm going to spend the last years of my life making 19 Avatar movies.
No shit.
Jesus Christ. You couldn't give us True Lies 2. You have to give us fucking 19 Avatar movies? Really?
Right.
Yeah, so that's my opinion on that. So there we go. Jaws. We're all fans. It's an all-time classic. It's an all-time great movie. And I think we'd all agree it is very much that. I'll close out on Jaws with this last thing, and this is a great panel question because everyone has a slightly different opinion on Jaws. Justin, I'll start with you as the man who has been around sharks, literally. Do you still consider Jaws a scary movie?
I mean, me personally, yes. Just because of that, like, again, that personal experience. When you go through scuba diving, like, training, they honestly tell you, like, hey, like, you're a lucky scuba diver if you jump into the water and you see a shark. Like, that is like you're lucky because, like, if you jump in and, like, there's a shark in the area, typically they're like, I don't want anything to do with that. But it's on that same side of the coin, it's the sharks that you do not see that you have to be worried about. They say if you see a shark, you are fine because, like, they hunt from the bottom. So it's the shark that you don't see that's the one that you have to worry about. So it's just that feel, all of the underwater shots and the low angles and that score and just everything is just, I just think it just hits the right buttons.
Alexis, what about you? As somebody who's not, like, you love Jaws, but you're not just, like, obsessed with Jaws, do you consider Jaws a scary movie?
I would say yeah, and here's why. I'm gonna admit I am not cool enough to swim with the sharks. I'm a fucking pussy. I think the ocean is what's even going, past the sharks, what lies beneath the ocean, the Amazon, all that shit. I have a great respect for nature, but we don't know what all is going down there. So that whole unknown and not seeing the sharks and what is going on? Why is it all of a sudden attacking all these people? That concept to me is absolutely terrifying. Yes.
All right, Patrick, is it scary? Is Jaws still scary?
Damon, when we started this podcast, I don't know, for almost 5 years ago to the day, we decided that all scary movies are really tied around dread. Mm-hmm. Dread is more important than a jump scare. Dread is more important than gore or a stalking killer or anything. You can have a movie where no one dies, but you are clenching at level 10 on that butthole. Like, you are so tense. That's fear. This movie has dread in spades. Like, you could say the sharks look like shit. You can say the acting's bad and outdated, but you can't tell me that it doesn't create a sense of dread. I mean, just the music alone. Mm-hmm. Like, I remember I was skin diving with a buddy in the kelp forest right here in California, and I just heard dun-dun in my head, and I was like, I can't see 5 feet in front of myself. I'm going to get back in the canoe. Like, just the music did it. This is a dread-inducing film in more ways than one. Now, as the generations go on, it might begin to soften to people, and they don't see it the way the way other generations have. But it's crafted for dread, and it does it in spades. So it's absolutely a scary film.
Yeah, I'll close out and agree with everybody here. I mean, listen, I don't need to say more than what you guys have said so brilliantly. I'll just add my little 2 cents of what I've said a couple times in this podcast. I don't go in the fucking ocean because of Jaws.
If you don't know Damon,
scary.
if you two have not personally met Damon Martin, he's 6'3", covered in tattoos, combat sports experience. The man is not to be fucked with. But don't let a little bit of ocean water hit his toes. He's like, nope, I'm going the other
He's
way.
like, nope.
I'm out of here. So that's the answer. Is it scary? I don't go. I don't fuck with the ocean. So yes, it's scary because I still don't go in the ocean.
You're
to
damn
this
right
day.
it's scary.
Yeah.
So there you go. That is our Jaws podcast. We appreciate everyone that tuned in for this part of the live stream, and I want to say a big thank you to our guests, Justin, Slasher Talk, one of the great TikTok channels, one of the first. I think I've said this before. I think you were one of the first two. It was you and Sid Horror Chronicles were the first two horror channels I followed on TikTok, and to actually have you here as a friend now means a lot. So thank you for joining. Of course, Alexis, thank you as always for the support. We really appreciate you jumping on as well.